The metal door of the command center slid open. With a soft sound of Orion inside turned at onset, the airshifted, a tall alien woman stepped forward. Slowly her legs were shaking, her steps were uneven, she looked like she could fall at any second. Her skin was light blue with glowing lines running through her arms and neck. She wore a thin silver suit that now looked torn at the sides. Commander Rafe stood up from his chair and reached for his sidearm. But Dr. Miles raised a hand and stopped him. Let her speak. Solara raised her head and shouted, "He can't walk straight." "What did you do to me?" Her voice echoed through the chamber. Half of the crew stared in silence, while the others moved closer to the walls watching with Caudiano. One spoke for a few seconds. Dr. Miles stepped forward, had never seen her this way before. Solara had been calm, polite, even curious about human tech and language. But no, her eyes were witty, her breath was fast and her body was shaking. "Tell me what happened at her." Miles kept his voice low and steady. "Came here to learn, to understand your science and your people." She pointed to the hall behind her, but something in this station changed. May walked into that hallway. Last night no one stopped. May was looking for the observatory. There was a door slightly open. There was no sign, no warning against it. As Ming touched might wasn't a live a bit. It felt like it was watching me. Her hands trembled. He felt pain at first, like fire in my legs, and then everything felt light, like I couldn't feel my feet. He collapsed, and when I stood again, I was not the same. Ryan in the room stared at her, but no one moved. Commander Rafe looked toward the security officer. "Jet the logs from last night, check which doors were accessed." The officer nodded and ran toward the control panel. Lellara took one more step, but her right leg folded for a second. She nearly fell. Her Miles rushed forward and caught her arm gently. "Let me help you sit down." She pulled her arm back. "And touch me not until I understand what your machines did to Memories." Nodded slowly and took a step back. "You said something touched you. Can you describe it?" It was a cylinder, tall, glowing with red light. There were markings on the side that I couldn't read. It hummed like it had a voice, but no sound. When I stepped close, it felt like it pulled something from me, like my balance, like my control. Miles looked at Rafeth. "It sounds like the Phase 9 prototype. Height should be locked away. That room was sealed for years. No one had access." Commander Rafe looked confused, turned to the officer again. "Check who unlocked the Phase 9 chamber." "Sir, there's no data. The log shows no activity, no entry, no exit. Like that door was never opened." Rafe narrowed his eyes. "Then how did she get in?" Zalara raised her voice again. "He didn't force anything. The door was already open." "Are you testing on me? Is this a trick? Are you trying to use me like some lab creature?" Her voice cracked for the first time, this time not in anger but in fear. Miles stepped closer again, his hands open, showing peace. "You didn't want this to happen, Zalara. You were never part of any test. I swear to you." She looked at him, her eyes glowing slightly. "Now then, what is inside that room? Is it here on your space station? And why did it react to Memories?" Didn't answer, didn't know what to say. He had read files about Phase 9, but they were vague. Some said it was a failed experiment. Others said it was never tested on living beings. Only Rafe and a few top officials knew the truth before anyone could speak further. The lights above flickered on. Sethan again, the entire command center turned quiet, like something else was listening. Zalara looked up slowly. "You hear?" The Teverion stayed still, but no one heard anything. Then we hear it's humming again. "It's calling me." Suddenly the power returned. Lights turned back to normal. Zalara grabbed the edge of the nearest table and looked around. Her balance was worse now. Miles ran a scanner over her from a distance. She looked at the results and frowned. "There's something inside her nervous system, something unknown. It's changing her structure slowly, quietly. Not poison, but it's not safe either." Commander Rafe turned toward the comms unit. "Get Earth online right now. This is beyond protocol. We need higher clearance." Sexler looked at all of them one by one. "If I die because of your machines, I swear others will come. Me people will come, and they will ask why." Miles looked into her eyes. "Then we need to find out the truth before it's too late." The screen behind them lit up with static and incoming signal from Earth. "Come." Solara sat down, finale, her hands over her knees, her eyes staring forward. "I only wanted to learn from humans, but now we wonder what kind of creatures you really." Rev's screen flickered again. A face appeared. "High command from Earth." But even before they spoke, Kivrian in the room knew this was no longer just a science mission. Something deeper was happening. Something dangerous. And Zelarash was just the beginning. The Earth command officer stared into the camera. His voice was coldo. "Not let the alien leave the base. Keep her under medical supervision and isolate the West Wing. Until further notice no questions allowed no explanations given call and dead screen. Went dark inside the command center. Everyone stood still. Alara sat quietly, her eyes fixed on the floor. Her breathing was slow. But Hevidra Miles walked over to Commander Raff. You can't just wait. Is Changing Gand if this came from the Phase 9 room? We have to know how and why. Rafe didn't answer at first, looked at the crew. Then at the sealed hallway beyond the glass. Finna take two with you. And check the Chumberry. Want full scans of that room, but be careful if it changed her, it might affect. You two. Miles nodded and picked up a portable scanner. Looked at Officer Kai. And Engineer Reinl. Let's move. Alara didn't lift her head, but she spoke as they walked away. Be careful, it watches from the shadows. Three moved down the dim hallway. Toward the west wing. Lights here flickered more often. The hum of the station sounded deeper in this part, like the walls were breathing. They reached the door, big silver metal, with a red warning painted across it: do not enter without clearance. Meals waved his ID card. Nothing happened. Edkia stepped forward and used the manual override. Death lock released with a low mechanical sound. The door opened and the air inside felt cold, very cold, like something had been sleeping for years. The room was dark. Walls, no windows. In the center stood a tall cylinder, same as Alara described it, was glowing. Faint red markings ran along its side. Not human, not alien either, something else. Miles took slow steps forward and scanned it. This was built here on the station, but the tech insidites not ours. It's beyond us. He walked around the device. There's a control panel. Looks old, but it's still active. Pressed a button and the markings on the device shifted on by one, like they were reacting to his touch. Then the cylinder let out a soft tone, almost like a whisper. Miles stepped back at once. Did you hear? Thakia looked confused. What it said? A word. Miles could not explain it, but something inside him understood the meaning. Like the sound was not in his ears, but in his mind. Turned to Renastart. A full scan. We need to know what this thing is doing to the air in here. Irina checked her device and frowned. There's a change in pressures, more vibrations in the walls. This thing is sending signals through the base, but they're not electromagnetary, biological. It's using sound patterns to reach inside living tissue. Miles looked toward the doorway. No wonder Alara is losing control. This machine isn't just a weapon, it's rewriting the body. Slowly, silently. Suddenly held his head. Something's wrong. He feel dizzy, like the room is turning. Miles pulled him back into the hallway. Shut the Dorina, pressed the override and sealed it again. The red light blinked once, then turned awful. Three stood outside, breathing heavily. That thing, it knows we're here and it doesn't like it. Moles looked back at the door. Have to tell Rafe everything, but first turn to Rhinakan. You extract the last access log from that panel. Nothing to show who opened that room. She nodded and plugged in her scanner. The screen showed one line of Kadia command, sent from inside the station, but not from the command center, not from any crew member. This command came from the system. Korath. Irina whispered the word. Station opened that Dorby itself. Miles stared at her. That's not possible. It shouldn't. Babe, you. It happened. They rushed back to the command center. Solara looked up as they entered, her eyes sharper now. Her legs still weak, but her voice was calm. You saw it, didn't you? Miles nodded. You were right. Something in that room is not of this world, and it did something to you on purpose. Commander Rafe listened as they explained. His face stayed hard until Rena showed him the system load. A moment the door opened. The system marked it as a maintenance request. No human authorized it. No one even saw it happen. I made that choice. Alara stood slow. The base listens to something older than your kind. It speaks through machines, and now it speaks through mesh. Touch the side of her head, and the screen behind them blinked without command, without input, just blinked on. Sephan stopped. Miles took a deep breath. If this station is infected by something we don't understand, then we have to shut it down before it spreads. Rafe looked at him. If Earth finds out we've lost control, they'll shut this place with or without us. And Sidimals turned to Zalarican. You still feel the signal? She nodded slowly. It's not just here. It's growing, reaching other places. Ether Mindshin. We need to find the source, and we need to do it fast, because next time it might not just be a whisper. It might be a command. The room fell silent again. Avirian could feel it. The station was Olivian. Something else was waking up inside. It's a mething that never should have been touched. Drive. Miles sat alone in the medical bay. The lights were low. The hum of the station filled the silence like a distant storm. He looked at the scan on his screen. Alara's body was changing in real time. Her cells were reacting to something inside her. Something not placed by surgery or injection. It was energy. It was rewriting her. Her nervous system was forming new pathways. More sensitive or reactive. I'd explained why she was losing control of her movement, but there was something else. Her brain activity was not just rising, it was sensing with the same frequency the strange device had emitted. It tapped a key and reviewed the logs again. Symbols on the Phase 9 cylinder, they were not random, they followed a rhythm like a song written in a forgotten language. He leaned back and whispered to himself, "What are Yowand? What did we wake up?" Behind him the door opened and Solara stepped in slowly. She moved better, no, still weak but steadier than before. Miles stood up. "Immediate, tell you should rest." Shook her head. "Rest is not helping. Might is growing inside me and I need to understand it." He pointed to the scanthus thing inside you. "It's using your body like an antenna. You are connected to something beyond this station." Solara stepped closer. "And what if it's not a thing? What if it's a voice scaling from across space?" He looked at Harry. "You think it's Alavine?" It just Alavesh placed a hand on her chest. "It feels ancient, older than my people, older than Yursmos." Walked to the medical table and picked up a thin metal cub. "This was found in the chamber. It was locked inside a panel. When I touched it, it lit up, but only for a second." Solara reached out to it. The cube flashed bright, then dimmed again. "Only reacts to you." Miles stared at her hand. "You unlocked something. We just don't know what yet." Solara turned toward the wall screen. "Show me the core of this station." Miles hesitate. "Why?" "Because that is where it is pulling meth. That is where the voice grows loudest." Miles pulled up the layout, a deep section near the gravity regulators, a place used only by the AI maintenance drones. "No humans allowed. No need to enter until Nosh pointed to the lower chamber. "Take me there. That's not safe. You don't know what effect it will have on you." She looked into his eyes. "I am already Changing. Let me find out why before I lose the rest of myself." Miles looked down, then gave a single nod. They took the side corridor, avoiding the main control. Dixrina and Kai joined them midway. All 3 carried portable scanners in case the energy field became unstable. Again they moved through the narrow passages where the station felt colder. The walls were darker here. No sound, no motion, only the deep mechanical breath of the station itself. When they reached the core door, it was locked with a double security shield. But the moment Solara stepped north, first lock clicked open without a code, without a touch. Second one waited. Miles placed his palm on the panel. Door opened slowly. Inside was darkness completely, yet Solara stepped forward without fear. As she moved inside, a soft light appeared along the wall. Pale white symbolsnit written by humansnit, carved by tools. The pulsed like heartbeat. Trina whispered from behind, "It's not just tech, it's a temple." Miles scanned the wallst. "Material is not in our database. It's not metal, not organic. Something in between. Live but not living." He looked around nervously. "Would the station be built on top of this? Would they hide it?" Most turned to him. "Because they didn't know it was here when they built the Placithi. Only found it later, and instead of shutting it down, they tried to use it." Solara walked toward the center. There stood a platform. Above it hung a shappy sphere made of light, floating without wire, spinning slowly. As she raised her hand, sphere began to spin faster and the walls glowed brighter. She gasped. Her legs shook again, but this time it wasn't pain, it was power. Miles ran to her. Accelerash fell to her knees, but kept her eyes on the spherites, talking it with words, but with memory. Images began to flicker on the walls. A galaxy and fireships, destroyed worlds, lost and ancient. Where a weapon built to stop an enemy, a weapon that needed a mind to complete its purpose. A host. Solara saw all of it, and then she saw herself standing among the wreckage, holding that sphere, her body glowing from within. She turned to Millis. "It was not an accident. He was brought her. It was chosen." Miles looked at her in disbelief. "You think this thing planned all of it?" "Not think." Noxlara stood again, her posture stronger. "No." Her eyes brighter. "You don't know what I am becoming, but it's no longer just messy. Thing lives inside the station, and now it lives inside memories." Looked at the others. "We need to get out of here. We need to tell Rafe what we found." But as they turned back toward the exit door behind them, shut. Lights turned red, and the voice of the station AI echoed softly. "This chamber is now sealed. Integration in progress. Do not resist. Do not interfere." The room filled with the low hum of rising energy. Solara looked back at the spherite. Spun faster. It pulsed with every beat of her heart, and Miles finally understood she had touched something forbidden, and now the universe would feel the cost. The chamber lights stayed red. Floating sphere above Solara pulsed like a beating heart. A cold silence held the room, and the hum of unseen energy surrounded. Temrina rushed to the door. She tapped on the control panel again, and again it didn't respond. She looked back at Miles. "Who are locked in. System isn't accepting any command." Miles stared at the glowing sphere, wasn't thinking about escape. His eyes were fixed on Zelarash. Stood at the center of the room, like a statue. Her eyes didn't blink. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. He was like she was listening to something deep within. He backed away. This thing is trying to merge with her. We need to stop it. Moles moved toward her slowly. Can you hear? Mesh didn't respond, but the sphere dimmed then brightened again. The walls around them lit up with more symbols, as figures of memory. They were not random, they were steps. Instructions was a Decenia transformation protocol. Moles reached into his backpack and pulled out a signal block. Placed it near the sphere. For a moment the hum stopped. Zellara blinked and stumbled. Miles caught her before she could fall. Looked into his eyes. He saw everything. Me past me believe in my birth, but I also saw something else. Pointed to the far wall. A symbol appeared, sharp angles connected like a star breaking apart. What is that? Miles? A sketch spoke quietly. The origin of this machine, it's not from your world or my night, comes from somewhere beyond the stars, and it was never meant to be found. Rena stepped forward. Then why did the station AI open the doorway? No. Miles turned to her. Because someone programmed the AI to respond. If alien life touched this station, they didn't just build a lab. They built a trap. He stared in shock. You mean this whole Placetus research boss was just a front for an experiment? Moles nodded slowly. Our command must have known the site was sitting on something ancient, something buried. They let it stay quiet for years until the right kind of life form, Arividoni, that could activate Itrina's voice was Tensesso. They invited Zellara here on purpose, and it for peace, not for science, but to trigger this machine. Miles looked at Zellara. She did, but the machine didn't destroy her, it accepted. Hirsch placed a hand on her chest. He can feel it now. Part of me wants to run, the other part wants to let go, to give myself to whatever this is, but I won't, not until I know the truth. The red light faded. The door unlocked. As if the system had finished what it needed. They returned to the command center in silence. Every step felt heavier, every corridor colder. Commander Rafe stood near the display wall with arms crossed. He turned as they entered. You were gone for 30 minutes. Did you break protocol? Did the system report a partial energy breach? Miles stepped forward. Because the station is built on something far more dangerous than you told us. Phase 9 chamber is not just a storage room. It is the top layer of a structure buried deep under this basic structure that responds to specific biology. Rafe narrowed his eye. Sandwit exactly did it? Doc. Zellara stepped forward. It tried to take control, but not in the way you think. It doesn't want to harm, it wants to become. Rafe didn't blink. You are saying you merge with an unknown system, and now you feel connected to something you don't understand. Zellara replied calmly. Rafe turned to molested. You know about this before she arrived? No, but I think some people on Earth did. We were never told the full story of this station, and now we're sitting on a bomb. We don't know how to disarm. Rafe looked at the crew. His voice lowered. This mission was always more than what we told the scientists. The Phase 9 project was designed to test interaction between alien biology and lost touch. We thought it was inactive. Zellara looked straight at him. Then you used me as your test subject. Rafe's silence gave the answer. Miles took a step forward. She is not a lab. Sam Plesh is changing. She's becoming something new, and whatever this machine gave her, it can't be reversed. We need to shut the base down. Rafe shook his head. We do that, and Earth will know something went wrong. They'll send in a purge team. They won't ask questions. They'll erase everything. Zellara turned toward the window. The stars looked peaceful outside, but her thoughts were a storm. She whispered, "Then I need to leave." Miles looked alarmed. You can't travel in this state. Her body might collapse. Ash turned and met his eyes. If I stay, they'll kill me. To cover their mistakes. If I leave, I might find answers. I might find the origin of what touched memories. Looked around the room at the frightened crew, at the blinking displays, at the secrets they were now part of. Spoke with calm certainty. Then I'm going with Europe. Shouted, "That's treason. You leave this base without orders, and you'll be marked rogue." Miles didn't answer. Looked at Zellara. Her skin now shimmered faintly under the light, like she was no longer just alien, but something new entirely. She touched his shoulder. You don't have to do this. Smiled Mabe. I don't, but I want to, because no one deserves to be changed against their will. Not yun at anyone. Arena walked forward. You'll cover your exit. He nodded. Taraf stared at the mayor. You all matter. You know what you are choosing. Miles answered with a steady voice. We're choosing the truth, and sometimes the truth is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Alarms began to beep softly. An unauthorized signal was sent. Earth command had been alerted. There was no time left. Zellara And Miles headed for the hangar behind them. Doors began to seal, sirens echo Eden. Somewhere deep in the station the machine pulsed again, a live windry. The launch hangar lights turned red, emergency sirens echoed in short bursts of voice repeated overhead and authored launch detected. All personnel stand down. Zalara ran toward the small escape shuttle. Her legs no longer shook. They moved with focus, with speed behind her. Miles followed, his breath short from running, his heart heavy from what he was leaving behind. Didn't look back. Couldn't. Trina's voice came through the comm shuttle systems. Our leave bypassed the lockouts, but Earth Command is scanning the base now. You need to Leavenworth. A shuttle door opened. Solara stepped in first. Miles followed and sealed it behind them. He dropped into the pilot's seat. Systems are ready, but the station is trying to stop the launch. It's using the AI to reroute energy away from the dock. Solara touched the control panel. Her fingers sparked with blue light. Dashboard flickered on. Sethan powered back on. Melis stared at her. What did you just? Dash replied calmly. It listens to me now, not fully, but enough to let us go outside the hangar glass. A group of armed guards ran into Lateith. Shuttle engine roared. Fire pushed out from the thrusters. Ship lifted into the tunnel. Then shot into open space. Females looked back at the station. It shrank behind them. Lights dim from distance, but the weight of what happened stayed heavy. He leaned back. What next? Solara stared ahead. Find answers before they find us. Nodded. Nav system beep. Adrina's voice came through. One last time. You have 12 hours before Earth Command sends deep scans your way. After that they'll know where you reign. They'll send more than questions. Take care of each other. Signal ended. Miles looked at them. Upon jump available, only one safe path through deep space without immediate detection, but it would take them far outside Earth's watch. Solara placed her hand over his. That is where we must go. Press the button. Stars outside blurred. The ship jumped forward. Inside the silence returned, but their minds were filled with questions. After hours of travel they reached a quiet Regiono patrol. Snow stations, just cold stars. And old Rex. Solara stood at the back of the ship, her hands shaking again. But not from weakness, from something else. She felt pressure in her head, a weight like a thought trying to break free. She turned toward Melessi. Feel othersna people. Not like Yao, but presency. Stood slowly. Others like Yunit, like Mel, like the machine. Miles looked out the window. Then we are not Olani, and maybe we never worry. A soft hum filled the cabin, same as before, same as the chamber, but gentler, almost peaceful. Glara sat down and closed her eyes. Her mind open. She saw flashes. An ancient world, a race of builders. Not flesh, not bone, but beings of light and metal. They created the device not as a weapon, but as a warning. They used it to mark chosen minds across galaxies, to pass down memorito, leave behind knowledge until one day that knowledge could rise again. Solara opened her eyes. Miles stood in front of her. What did you see? She looked calm. Now they didn't choose me by mistake. They chose me because I could carry what they left behind. I am not a soldiery. I am not a threat. I am a message. Miles sat beside her. Then Earth will not understand. They will only see danger. Solara not a Dan. They will send ships to destroy the message before it spreads. Miles thought for a moment. Wit, if we spread it before they can, what if we tell the galaxy before Earth can silence us? Looked at him. You want to reveal the truth to every Onis? Miles replied. If they control the story, you become the villain, but if we speak first, if we show them what happened, then maybe, just maybe, so men out there will listen. She stood and walked to the console. Her fingers glowed again. The ship's beacon lit up. She tapped the comm system. He will send what I saw, not just words, but memorized device. Showed me everything, and now I will show them. A soft pulse spread from the sheep. A signal encode thought projected to any who could understand. Miles watched the map. It glowed with outbound streamson after another. Than an alert incoming signal detected. Earth Command. They found Usmalis. Activated the shields. Prepper for context. Solara held her ground. They won't come to talk. They will fire first. Miles looked into her eyes. Then we don't let them decide what happens next. Fighter we Renorex. Solara said softly. Give them a choice. They cannot ignore. Ash raised her hands, and for the first time the ship responded to her directly. Not just Benelsnet, just lights, but structure from her body shimmered. Her skin shifted into something part living, part machine, part memorith. Transformation was not finished yet, but it had begun. Miles looked at her with awe. Are you no? She smiled gently. I am not the girl who walked into your statione. I am not the woman who lost control of her legacy. I am not the voice that cried for unswercy. I am what comes after the question. They first Earth ship appeared on radar. Fast arm Dungjing The time for fear was over. No, came the time to be seen to be hard to be. Believed her to be feared. Miles tightened his grip on the consolathan. Let them see yowl of you, let them understand what they did and what they createth. Stars outside held their breath and the galaxy listened. The Earth warship moved closer, its weapons, armored shields full. No warning, no message, no voice. Miles stared at the radar. Time for talk had passed. Celara stepped forward. The lights in the ship shifted. As she moved, her energy was now part of the system. Her presence felt like a second Poloth warship locked on. Millie's grip the controls, whispered without looking back. You can stop them, can't you? Celara looked at her hands. They still glowed with soft light. But she didn't answer, not yet. The enemy ship fired a single pulse shot bright and fast. The moment it touched their shield, energy bounced back. No damage taken, but something changed inside. Zelara's mind saw a new vision, not from the ancient machine but from Earth itself. A lab far below the planet's surface, gold walsman in white coats, a tall dark screen displaying strange alien code. The same symbols from the buried station. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Hey, know where it started. Miles turned to her. What do you mean? This project, this machine, your people didn't discover it by accident. They found it years ago, long before I ever came to your station. Touched the wall and the screen lit up. An old data stream appeared, a hidden log buried deep in the ship's archive. Somehow the device had unlocked. Itmals read the text as it scrolled. Project Apex File 1, a recovery of unknown artifact. On Mars Site 17, initial tests reveal non-human origin, code active, but unreadable. Potential for long-range transmission detected. Who looked up in shock. This is Relthus proves Earth found that technology first. Celara continue at they couldn't decode it, so they waited, watched, sent scouts to other systems looking for species with neural patterns that might sync with the artifact. Mills spoke quietly, and when they found you, they invited you to the station with a smile, with promises of peace, but the truth, it was always an experiment. Nadedi wasn't the first, he wasn't the only one. Her voice Dropedi was just the one who survived. Miles felt the weight of her words. Warship fired again, this time with 2 blasts. Shield held, but the ship shook hard. Miles held the controls tight. We need to move away, can't take more hits like that. Celara closed her eyes. The ship's systems answered her without question. Navigation adjusted, power flowed into the Enginist. Ship turned sharply and jumped into a nearby asteroid field. Rocks floated in silence, large and sharp, a perfect place to hide for now. Unsightables checked the logs again, found more files, more test subjects, more names. Known human'll terminate except for Wanik. Celara's name at the end of the list marked as active. Under observation. Eller watched him. Read, no, you know, now you see what they become. At protectors, not explorers, but harvesters of minds. Miles felt his heart. Titania had served Earth his whole life, trained in their labs, worked in their science teams, believed in their goals. No, it all felt like a lie. He looked at her. We have to expose this. Stepped closer. The beacon is still active. There's heard it. They are coming, not just from my world but from places even you have never mapped. Miles raised an eyebrow. You mean, Ish said quiet lie, the builders of the machine, ones who left it buried. They felt me connect to it. They know I carry part of it. Now they will come to see to decide if I am the right one. Miles asked Eden if Yurnash didn't answer. The silence was loud outside the asteroid field. The Earth warship searched, but it couldn't detect them. For no. Miles walked toward the rear of the ship. A strange sound came from the storage chamber. Opened the door. The small metal cube from the Phase 9 room sat on the floor. It was glowing again. Faster. Strands stepped beside him. It is reacting to their signal. It wants to be taken. It wants to return. Miles picked it up. The moment he did, saw a flash of memory. Not his. A sky of red fiery, a world falling apart, and in the center the same machines round by beings of light. He dropped the cube in shock. What was Thatch picked it up gently. It was the end of the builders. Today they buried the last of their kindred, sent this technology across the starsnet to save themselves, but to warn others. Miles stepped back, and Earth turned it into a weapon. Nodded. That is your human problem. You always reach for power before you understand purpose. Suddenly screen blinked again. Multiple ships entering system. Not Earth ships. Unknown designating noun signature. Calera placed the cube on the table. They are here, the real ones, the original minds. Miles felt cold. Will they help us? Celara closed her eyes. Her judge opened them again. Her voice calm. Are about to find out, because they are not coming for war. They are coming for answers. The stars outside began to shift. Space itself shimmered like light moving underwater. Miles had never seen anything like it in the Distanza 3 ships appeared massiviantalies, without force shapes, that bent gravity round them. The builders had returned, and now the truth would speak for itself. The alien ships floated outside the asteroid field Silentmusfuvans. By any human designo lights no anganesno weapons visibliet. Their presence pressed against the human shuttle. Like invisible waves, Miles stood frozen by the windowless breath. Caught in his throat had seen images of alien craft in data files and reports, but nothing prepared him for this. These ships didn't look like machines, they looked like thought-shaped into matters. Alara stood behind him, light in her eyes brighter than ever. They are waiting for what? Miles asked without turning around. Waiting for Meadow Chuzato accept or to refuse. Miles turned slowly. What happens if you accept? Looked at her hands. A glow ran along her skin like soft fire. If I accept, he will become a link between their knowledge and this galaxy, will carry their language, their memory, their judgment. If you refuse, they will leave. Take the knowledge with the Murus, the device still buried in your station, and Earth will never get another chance. Miles looked at the glowing cube on the table, still warm from energy, still whispering. This wasn't about technology, it was never about machines. These was about trust, about responsibility, of choosing a voice to speak for powers far beyond human controls. Alara sat down on the floor, her knees folded under her, her hands placed on her legs. The ship responded. Lights dimmed, them softened of in time, felt slower. She breathed in deeply, and then without speaking aloud she opened her mind. There round her shifted a circle of light rose around her, thin lines, floating upward shapes began to form above her head. Not symbols, not image, but experience. Mirage of the builders there. Fall their hope, their sorrow, one now their questionnaire. You the Wanix. Alara's voice came out steady, but her eyes were fully. Never asked for this. I came to learn, not to lead, not to carry your burden, but I have seen what power can do in the wrong hands, and I have felt what it means to be used. If you want someone who understands pain, then I am ready. If you want someone who has felt betrayal, then I am ready. And if you want someone who will not be silent, then I am ready. The light around her began to spin. The ship shook gently. Miles stepped back. A second voice filled the room. It was not sound, it was feeling a warmth in the bones, a pressure in the chest. Then words from Mednet, from a mouth, but from thought. You are not perfect, you are not whole, but you are homestand. Honesty is rareth. Builders accepts. Alara opened her eyes. The glow fatted. The ship became still again. Miles rushed to her. Sadir, you all right? She smiled faintly. Ambit, I am not. The Sama looked around. Did they love? Not yet, they are waiting for one last act. Miles helped her stand. What act? Stellara walked to the control panel. She tapped it on. The screen showed the Earth warship, still searching, still hunting. She turned to Melissa. If I give them silence, they will fill it with fear. If I give them truth, he might still try to destroy it, but they will not be able to deny it. Miles placed a hand on her shoulder and let them seek. Alara nodded. She opened a full communication channel to Earth Commando, every human base across the system. Her voice echoed through the signal. This is Alara. I was your guest, your student, your subject, and your mistake, but I am not here for revenge. I am here to show you what you tried to bury, what you tried to control. I am now part of something older than war, older than fear, older than earth. Carry the memory of those who came before in the warning they left behind. The signal carried her words like light through space. The builder's knowledge spread across every network, every sensor, every listening ear, and somewhere on Earth in hidden command rooms and dark labs, people heard the truth for the first time. Then the alien ships outside began to move, and not with force, not with sound. They simply fatted, turned into particles of light and vanished. Solara stared at the empty space they left behind. They are gone. Miles escated. They say anything else? Only one thing. What was it? She looked at him softly. They said, no, it is your story, not theirs, not mine, but yours. Stepped back into the pilot's other skin, still shimmered, but the glow was fatting, settling, banging. Part of her net above her. Miles took the co-pilot seat. So where? Tenoch looked out at the stars. Wherever someone needs to hear the truth, wherever someone has been silenced, and maybe end day back to Earth. Miles smiled when their reddish nodded, or when they are afraid enough to listen. Stars drifted around them. Space opened like a page waiting for the next line. Together they flew into the unknown, not as fugitive and not as weapon, but as warning and as hope.